Ugh. Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to another movie review with your boy GorTheMovieGod. It's been a little while since my last review, a couple months at this point. I apologize, but I'm back. I want to do more of these, and what better way to start than with The Witches, starring, of course, Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer, and Stanley Tucci, I guess. Not really. We'll get to that. But of course, this is the second movie adaptation of the classic novel, The Witches, which I read, and I'm sure a lot of people did back when they were in grade school. And I watched the movie back when I was in grade school. Probably not the best idea for my teacher to do that, considering how nightmarish that original movie is. But I remember loving that original movie. I haven't watched it ever since I was a kid. I haven't read the book since I was a kid either. But I remember thinking the book was great. It had a really dark ending. I was like, well, not like super dark, but like dark, like, whoa, okay, that's a little weird. And then the movie itself was really fun, but had a lot of really nightmarish visuals. And just thinking about the original movie now, it's 30 years old at this point. Still thinking about it and still looking at clips, I'm like, wow, the practical effects in that movie. Besides maybe the rats, the rats look kind of weird whenever they talk and stuff, but because they're like little puppets, I guess. I will take that over CGI any day, as I'll explain in a minute. Yeah, I mean, the practical effects look great, and it is very creepy. As for a kid, just the way that movie is shot, like the up close, like camera shots and stuff, just from clips I've seen recently, just to kind of catch myself up on The Witches, so I have like some way to compare this new adaptation to that one, because I haven't read the book in a long time, so besides the ending, I don't remember too much from the book. Yeah, so the original has some great practical effects, really great. Angelica Houston was game; she was awesome in that movie, and Rowan Atkinson was great as well. I forgot who played the grandma, but she was really good too. She was very homely, very not homely, very very warm. She was a good grandma. She's a good grandma. So I was not really looking forward to this movie ever since I heard it was announced. I wasn't really, because I was like, whatever. All these adaptations that come out nowadays have been kind of crappy. So I was like, whatever. I'll give it a shot. Robert Zemeckis. I love Robert Zemeckis, even though he hasn't made a good movie since, I guess, Flight. Flight was a good movie. I have a personal love for Beowulf, which I know nobody does, but I do. So yeah, I guess I like Polar Express. I guess it's all right. He did he do The Walk? Was that him? I like The Walk. So I guess he's done some good movies, but a lot of his movies in the past like 15, 20 years have been either or yeah, it was good, I guess. Just nothing to the top echelon of like Back to the Future. But anyway, let's talk about this new adaptation. It's HBO Max original, even though I think it was supposed to come to theaters, but of course it didn't. Even the poster mentions like, "Oh, just take the big screen home or whatever." And to be honest, after watching this movie, yeah, that's the best place for it, because this is a very, very, very dull movie. It is exactly what you expect from a adaptation of the novel in this day and age. It is filled with terrible CGI, no soul, annoying characters, basic ass dialogue, no funny moments almost at all. Sprinkle in a couple of really good actors doing a job and maybe entertaining, in the small amount they do, just like a little bit of entertainment here and there, just from the two great actors you have in the title roles. I mean, not the title role, obviously not. Octavia Spencer is not a witch in the movie. But you get these two great actors and they're portraying these two characters. Besides that, everything else is as basic and bland and just boring, and I don't want to say bad, but I also kind of do, because there's a lot in this movie that's bad, and it just feels like it had a limited budget. They still wanted to do all of the effects that it could possibly do with the rats and the witches themselves, but they didn't want to go too far by giving it a big budget. So they gave it like a mid-budget, and they went straight up like Goosebumps with it, where like the Goosebumps movie was live action but had all the cartoony visuals, which fit for that movie. Here it just doesn't. Every time there's a special effect, especially when the rats are on screen, it looks It looks horrendous. I saw some reviews that said, yeah, the special effects were good. Richard Roper said, I really like the special effects. I don't know how anybody could say the special effects in this movie are even okay. They are terrible. Whenever somebody transforms into a rat, it is the most cartoony, dumb shit I've ever seen. It's horrible. The close-up of the main kid's face as he turns into a rat. There's a scene in the beginning when someone turns into a chicken. It looks so terrible. It looks so bad. And I'm thinking 30 years ago they did this stuff with practical effects. Not perfectly, comparatively perfectly, but way better than this. Way better. And it was way scarier. It looked better. I'm sure it was cheaper because special effects, actually, that's not probably true. Practical effects probably cost more than special effects nowadays. But it just looked better. And if you're going to make a movie about the witches and you're going to cast Anne Hathaway in, and even Octavia Spencer's a big name, shell out the money. Don't. I'm assuming it had a big enough budget, so I don't want to. I'm so confused by this. I don't know what the budget is. I couldn't look it up. It looks like it could possibly have a pretty big budget. It has a decent cast. The production design is pretty good for the most part. It is well filmed. It has a great director. I just don't understand why the special effects are so terrible. I know I'm going on and on about it, but there's nothing in this movie besides Octavia Spencer and Anne Hathaway that I thought was entertaining. So when the last half of this movie is all special effects, pretty much, it's this cat is special effect. These rats are special effect. And the witches, whenever they take off their wigs and you take off their gloves. You remember when it was creepy when they did that in the original because the camera work was really good and it was like getting up close and stuff. And it was actually really creepy. This one's just like tight shots of just people taking off their wigs and they're bald. They have like little boils on the back of their heads and stuff. So ooh, gross. Now they have just like they have their two fingers in the middle right there. Ring finger and their middle finger cut off and stuff. I can't remember if that was from the book, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the original movie. But they have those removed. It doesn't matter. Whatever. It just makes them look kind of creepier, I guess. And besides them looking like witches, and of course, besides Angelica Houston having all that latex and like makeup over her face that made her look like a witch, a scary looking witch. Now all that really happens with their face is that they have like a Joker smile thing going on. You know how Joker in The Dark Knight had the scars to be like a smile? That's what they have now, except whenever they want to look scary, they open their mouth and they have sharp teeth. And the scars open up too, so they have like a Melina thing going on from Mortal Kombat, and it is stupid as hell looking. It actually, I don't know why it reminded me of, if anybody remembers that Truth or Dare movie. Whenever they smile in that movie, if anybody watched it, that's what every time they had that stupid like big like toothy smile. It was just like, oh my god, it's giving me like flashbacks to that horrible nightmare. So the CGI really ruins a lot of this movie, where if it was like practical effects, it could have been kind of cool, like, oh wow, that's cool, the rats are, maybe puppets, or even shots of actual rats at times. They don't even have a real cat in this movie. They don't use a real snake in this movie, which that one makes more sense, but not a cat. There's a cat in the movie that is 100% CGI. And it doesn't help that everything looks like it's straight out of like the Alvin and the Chipmunks movie from like 13 years ago, the live action one. That's what every rat looks like. It looks like they're straight out of there. They just plucked them out. Dude, Pixar is doing better looking cats. Remember the Toy Story 4? The Pixar, the cat in the animated, fully animated movie looks better and more realistic than the cat in this live action movie, where they could have just got a fucking cat. Like really? Anyway, let's get to some of the other negatives, because that's not it. The characters. Okay, I'm going to give the movie credit. The first 30 minutes where we follow the main kid, he loses his parents. It's really sad. He's really sad about it, depressed. You have the grandma character played by Octavia Spencer, who is the only one that feels like a human in the entire movie. Even the kid, like, for the most part, he feels like a human until he turns into a mouse. Obviously, he's not a human anymore. But, like his acting style changes, which is really weird, because originally he's like kind of like shy a little bit and stuff, and then when he turns into a mouse, immediately he's like cracking jokes and stuff. It's very weird, but he's not bad, to be fair. But every character besides Octavia Spencer is annoying, but the first 30 minutes was actually a pretty good build up to the witches. Like, there's a backstory of the grandma and stuff. She saw something. She saw the girl turn into a chicken, and it's actually decent. It's a little heartwarming with the grandma relationship with the grandson. That stuff actually worked for me, and the music was good, even though the Chris Rock narration was very distracting. And I thought he was actually, when it comes to narrating, I thought he was pretty terrible at it for the first little bit, but he started to win me over a little bit towards like the last 30 minutes. He kind of stops narrating it after the kid turns into a rat, and then his narration comes back towards the end of the movie. But yeah, like the first 30 minutes is okay, but then they introduce these characters. You have the mouse character that's already a mouse. Like the kid has a pet mouse that's revealed to be a human that got turned into a mouse. Voiced by Kristen Chenoweth. What's her name? Kristen Chenoweth or whatever. Which is weird why they even cast her, because the mouse character is supposed to be a little girl that got transformed, but they got Kristen Chenoweth, and obviously like did some digital stuff to her voice to make her sound a little bit younger. And she's like a nobody character. I think she's from the book. I don't remember that character in the original movie, but I'm going to stop comparing to the original movie at this point, because it's been like 20 something years since I watched it, so that was the last time I watched it. And a book, shit, I don't remember things that happened a week ago, so I'm not even going to try to compare it to the book, so I'm going to just stop. But her character is completely useless. She's just there to say, like, with her southern drawl, just like, oh tarnation, stuff like that, which is just so lame. Then you have the fat kid, who I remember is in the original movie. The fat kid whose entire joke is that he's fat. So every time, even when he's a mouse, he's just like, I'm hungry, Cronky. He says Cronky like fucking 8 times in the like, I think the first 10 minutes you see him in the movie, actually. But he's just like, I'm fat. I need food to be fat. I need food. Every time he talks, he's like, I want food. I'm like, I'm fat. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm fat too. Me fat. I'm fat too. I need food. That's all fat people do. They just eat. So, and sometimes fucking do reactions and then fucking eat more. I'll put more food in my mouth. I'm fat. And it's like, it's just fucking base humor, and I hated it. Every time he's on screen, I'm like counting down to the moment where he makes the same fucking fat joke. Someone says something about bacon at one point, which it wasn't really a food. They weren't talking about food. They were just like, ooh, that's a lot of bacon. You say that about things, I guess, when you see a lot of something. I guess that's a thing you say. And then so, don't say bacon. Oh, fat and hungry. It's like, I hate that character, the Bruno character. I don't remember hating him in the original, but I was a kid back then, so who knows? Maybe he's annoying in the original movie. Maybe he's annoying in the book. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't care that he's annoying in this movie. So the characters are annoying. Stanley Tucci's character, Rowan Atkinson, had way more to do in that movie, in the original. I remember that. I remember his character actually having something to do. He had something to do. In this movie, Stanley Tucci is completely wasted. He does nothing in the movie besides show up, say like, "Oh, I don't like the cat," and then Anne Hathaway's like, I don't like you," and then she does her accent. You can't even understand her. To be fair, that was probably the only parts where I actually kind of chuckled, was whenever she said something and then someone went like, wait, what? I couldn't understand what you said, because I was like, yeah, me neither, Stanley Tucci. I couldn't understand what the fuck she said either. Garlic? I think she said garlic. I'm not too sure. But yeah, he's a very useless character, where in the original, Rowan Atkinson had more to do in the movie. Here he shows up, he goes, hey, pretty much, oh, sorry, and then he leaves the scene. That's pretty much what he does every time he's on screen. So the characters are not only annoying, but useless for the most part. They're not fun. They're not funny. There's no backstory to them, really. They're just really annoying. Bruno's a fat kid. He's fat. His parents want him to stop eating chocolate because he fucking gets over his face. Like, I mean, I guess just Raoul Dahl didn't really like I said his name right earlier, I think. Dahl, I'll just call him. I guess he just didn't like fat kids, because in both of his novels he had fat kids eating chocolate bars and getting over his freaking face. Both of the novels I know him for. No, he did other ones, right? Did he do the BFG? I think so. Yeah. The only 2 I read was Willy Wonka and this one, The Witches. Anyway, so yeah, the characters are annoying, but this is maybe my major problem with it. There's just no soul in this movie. There's nothing like besides like the couple times where Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer tried to give us either like humanity or humor, and sometimes it worked. Octavia Spencer definitely worked mainly in the first 30 minutes. For the rest of the movie, there's like no soul whatsoever. It is a bland manufactured product. It feels like they had a property. They were like, you know what? People like the witches, even though it didn't do well when it first came out. So, and we have Anne Hathaway. She'll do weird accents. She does that a lot nowadays. So maybe she'll do it. And Octavia Spencer will be in fucking anything. Let's just do it. It's just, I don't know. It just, there's nothing to it. It doesn't, there's no heart in the movie. I really don't feel it. Feels like any kids film ever. And sure, maybe some of the images can be a little scary to kids, but I just don't see it. I really don't. Especially nowadays where kids love to watch horror movies, actual horror movies. I have people in my family that are younger than I was when this movie was first subjected to me, they watch actual horror movies, like real ones that are scary. I just don't see how any of those same age kids would find us scary, honestly. Like maybe really young, maybe, but even then it's just like why even show this to your really young kid? You show them Teletubbies. I'm talking about like 3 or 4. Show them anything. Power Rangers, like it's at least that has more soul. Power Rangers has something. There's nothing to this movie. Also, I would like to comment, and this is like a positive but mostly a negative. They do the ending from the book in this movie. They do but they do something towards the end of the movie that was like, if they ended it at one point, I would have been like, okay, that's not bad. That's not a bad ending. All right, cool. Kind of what they did in the ending of the book. And then they do this. All I'll say, because I don't want to spoil it, is a slideshow. That's all I'm saying. They do a slideshow at the end of this movie that it might be the cringiest thing I've ever seen in a movie. And it was literally the last thing that happened in the movie until the credits. There is an after credit scene, which is not even worse. I shouldn't say that. It definitely is. It's bad though. But that's what the movie ends on technically. And I was like, wow. And I'm sure some people will say, oh, this is what happened in the book or something. And I don't remember again. But in a movie, I'm basing this just on the movie itself. Just in this movie, none of that worked. None of it. You know what? I already had a score ready for this. Like, I actually have the score ready because I was thinking to myself, what would I give the score? Usually I think of it towards the end of a review. But this time I was like, you know what? Let me give it the score first so I have it ready so I could pop it up here. But now I'm thinking about it, I feel like I should probably give it lower because thinking more and more about it, the only things I liked was Octavia Spencer and Anne Hathaway, which I barely even talked about. Anne Hathaway, she was fun. I just don't think she was as good, even close to Angelica Houston, who had this Angelica Houston had this aura about her where you look at her and you think powerful woman, you know? And Anne Hathaway, you think goofball that doesn't really... She fits in with all these witches, which, by the way, you don't get to know any of the other witches. Like, I think you get to know one kind of... Not really. She just has screen time. That doesn't mean you get to know them. In the original, I remember you got to know a little bit more about the other witches, but whatever. That's not a big problem. Whatever. But... she just doesn't feel like the head, the grand, what do they call it? The grand high witch. She doesn't feel like the head of anything. She just feels like another witch, I guess. And I don't know, it's just whatever. The special effects are terrible. No practical effects at all. The only thing they do is the little scar for their Joker makeup thing when their mouths open and they get the razor teeth, which is so stupid because they all have the visible scar. There's even a narration that mentions they use like pancake makeup, which I'm like, yeah, well, they do a terrible job because you can see it from a mile away. There's a scar here. Every one of them has it. And Stanley Tucci and nobody else from the hotel goes like, that's weird. But whatever, it's a kid's film. I didn't really give a shit. Yeah, the characters are super annoying, unlikable for the most part. There's no soul. It just feels like it feels manufactured. It is manufactured, but it feels it. And the ending I thought was actually terribly done. It would have been better if they just cut it off like a minute early, but because they ended it the way they did, I gotta say it was terrible. But I did like Octavia Spencer. I did like Anne Hathaway. I don't think Anne Hathaway is as good as some people are saying, though. She's fun. She does a decent job. I think she does a good job with a lot of the, like, you could tell it's still her doing a lot of the motion, even though her face is completely like CG at times. Whenever she does the smiley, toothy smile thing, there's one scene where she's like sniffing around trying to find the kid, and like her nose gets like really big while she's sniffing around, like it's like a fucking Scooby-Doo cartoon, which was very strange, but whatever. But she does a good job with some of the practical, I'm not practical, some of the comedic scenes. The production design is good. I like the hotel. And I guess it could be scary for young audiences. Oh, I also like the score. Alan Silvestri teaming up with Robert Zemeckis once again. I like the score. It was fine. It fit well. But that's it. The CGI is some of the worst. It's just bad. I didn't want this review to be that long, but it ended up being that long. But anyway, there you go. That is it. That is The Witches. And I guess I'll reveal my score now. I'm going to give The Witches, even though I feel like I should give it lower. But I'll stay with it like this. I'm sure I'll go lower after thinking more and more about it. But I'm going to give it for now a 4 out of 10. So there you go. 4 out of 10 for The Witches. It's not very good. It's definitely below average, that's for sure. Yeah, I don't really recommend watching it. Honestly, there's better horror movies out there. Not that it's a horror movie, but better things to watch during the October Halloween season than this. I can recommend 2 right off the bat that I watched recently that fit way better with this month, and you can watch them both on Shudder. I recommend the Mortuary Collection, which is great if you like an anthology horror movie. And if you want one that's more comedic but still has some spooky elements to it and really fits with October, is Scare Me. Scare Me was great. Also has the actress Aya Cash. Aya Cash? Is it Aya Cash? I think it's Aya Cash. I don't know who I'm looking at. But I'm looking at somebody like, is that right? Is that right? Stack of DS games I'm looking at. From The Boys. Of course, she played Stormfront. So I recommend those 2 movies for newer horror themed movies that you should watch. Hell, I heard Hubie Halloween wasn't even that terrible, so maybe watch that if you want like a more kid-friendly horror movie. This one's just is below average. It's not very good. Yep, maybe next time, Zemeckis. I'm still holding out on that Beowulf 2. Wouldn't make sense if they did, but still. And also, yeah, like, nobody saw that movie, nobody liked it, and it wouldn't make sense story-wise. But anyway, there you go. That's it. Bye. Ugh.